February 2021 meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. Somebody has some background music noise that needs to be muted, if they could, please. So the agenda has been posted, and we're going to go through it as it's on the website. We do have the six members of the committee: myself, John Henshaw, Joanne Burden, Mike Dixon, George Andrews, Carrie Novak, and Dennis Rich. And then we have some representatives from the town: Adam Lamontagne, Bob Zozik, and Scott Dill, as well as representatives from MZT, and they will be speaking to us in a few minutes. The first item on the agenda is a discussion on the minutes from November of 2020. We ended up having to cancel our December meeting, and then I screwed up the January posting, so we haven't had a meeting since November. Dennis did send out the minutes, and we sent them out again. Do we have a chance to review and discuss and vote on those minutes tonight? Has everybody had a chance to look them over? They looked fine to me. Does anybody want to entertain a motion that, unless there's, to accept those minutes?
Make a motion that the minutes be accepted as written.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Carrie. Any discussion? That was a Zoom meeting, of course. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and or waving your hand. Aye. Opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much.
That's where you see a senator saying, am I
okay, now it's really annoying. I hope it's not my computer that's talking like that. Let me see if I got something open. No.
Did that take care of it?
I think it's a very good point.
Nope.
No. Okay, that's not mine.
Some discussions about potentially law.
Okay, it's good now. Anyway, the next thing I wanted to do is, Hannah, if I could share my screen with the audience. Let's see, what do I do that? I go down to share screen and call up my file. Okay, and Hannah, can you mute everybody except me now? Please.
Yes, there was talk of the new party, but really that wasn't the main focus. The main
Thank you. So the first item we need to, I need to give you guys an update on, because the primary mission tonight is to kind of scope out what we're going to do for our annual town meeting articles. We don't need to vote them tonight necessarily, but we certainly could. We do have a quorum. We have the warrant is now open until the beginning of March. So we would have to have an earlier meeting for March, follow-up meeting to vote the articles if we don't do it tonight. So I got the balances from the town accountant just the other day. And in the open space recreation account, we have this $53,760. The historic preservation account is $61,080. The community housing account is $205,851. And the undesignated reserve is $1,244,142, giving that available figure of $1.564 million. I did not get the administrative account, but we know it's somewhere in the vicinity of $7,000. But, and that reminds me is that we do have an administrative budget request. Our annual dues to the Community Preservation Coalition have been invoiced. That is, once again, $875 and provides us access to the resources of the coalition, which is a statewide organization that really is very helpful in all of our, and also maintains the database of projects, etc. So before we go any further, I would like to entertain a motion to approve that $875 bill, if somebody could, and also be unmuted.
I'll make a motion that we provide the funds for the coalition dues for this year of $875.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joanne. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Wave your hand. I don't see everybody because my screen is sharing. Any opposition?
No.
Hearing none, unanimously approved.
John, can you
Yep.
send me a copy of this email?
Yes, sir. I'll send you this account balance sheet and I'll send
Yeah,
you the
if you
invoice.
could.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's the funds of where we have. Obviously, we have other monies that are designated towards specific projects that are ongoing, so that doesn't include these. The other things that we need to do is, of course, we set up our annual article for accepting the appropriation and designating the uses for the next year's. So I got from Luann Royer, the deputy assessor, she has estimated the billing, it looks like it's around $220,725, but then she receives the abatements from that, which is reduced, for senior abatements or low income abatements or whatever. So she's estimated, she hasn't got them all done yet, but right now she's at 209,000 because she's got like 11,000 plus in abatements. She's expecting, maybe 2,000 more. So she's estimating that our receipts would be, or our billing would be approximately $207,500. Now, if we were to also receive the 100% match, which is what we got last year, and last year we received 100% for the first time in about 3 years because the trust fund has been increased thanks to the additional monies, the legislator put in the deed fees. We got 193,414. So you can see there's been a pretty significant increase, and anybody that's driven around town knows that we've got a lot of new construction that's ongoing and more to follow. And Luann constantly updates the new growth into the assessments. And so, her figures are always impeccable. So we have an estimate of, we would put forth in the article approximately an additional $415,000 next year, assuming we got 100% match. And, that's the way we always have to do it better. And the reality is, we've approved more, but if we don't get it, that's what it is. So that's what we're looking at for next year. We've got some project requests and we're going to hear more about those, certainly the Baldwinville Elementary project. But as you recall, we have approved $230,000 for Gilman Waite. We'll want to validate that. One thing that we've had some discussion regarding the Gilman Waite project is that it needs to, we need to, be fully confident that all of the proposed expenditures.
Did you turn it down there?
Yeah.
I didn't have to.
Okay. And so the warrant article, when we do draft it, and I've spoken to Adam about this already, would indicate that the money to be expended on CPA eligible costs, which includes the irrigation, which includes the fencing, which includes the restrooms and the associated activities related to that which is involved strictly to the concession stand. We're hopeful that the Recreation Committee can allocate funds from their other reserves for that to do that. And so that's one thing we've had some talk about if that is allowed. And another thing that we do also want to talk about is the Baldwinville Fire Station. That's a little bit fuzzy still because of the fact that we haven't really nailed down the scope. If you look in your minutes from November, we talked about some concepts of developing a project to do the engineering to bring that project forward. And we can talk about that later. So that's all I needed to do to stop to share my screen. I'll send that file to anybody who wants it. Any questions on what I've just presented? Okay.
John, if when you say the Baldwinville Fire Station, are you meaning the emergency management building?
Yes. I'm sorry. I can't remember the number of that, but it's the old fire station, which is, sitting on the river there.
Okay, you might want to just put the emergency management building or something, just so everybody knows what building, if the further down the road when you get into it more.
Good point, Bob. We certainly will do that. And we'll also give the street address.
The street address is 1 Elm Street, John.
Okay, thank you, Mike. 1 Elm Street.
Doses of the coronavirus vaccine.
Okay, because, so before we'll get back to that topic, but I think what we'd like to do now is, since we have our friends from MZT here, we're going to hand it over to them so that they can do a presentation on the Baldwinville Elementary School project. As we know, that has been discussed already regarding, the old elementary school becoming historically preserved and also converted to community housing with additional housing to be built. So with that, I don't know who wants to take it from here. There's Matt, so it's probably you, and Hannah can give you the screen share if you'd like.
That'd be great. Hi, everybody. How are you tonight?
Thanks, good.
Good. I'm Matt Zoller, principal of MPZ Development. I've been before you before, appreciated that time that we had. That was several months ago, actually. I think maybe summertime, John, is that accurate when we last spoke? And I made a proposal to the town probably back in February or March of last year, looking to be designated as a developer to redevelop the Baldwinville Elementary School. In the intervening time, we've been working with Adam and his office to scope an agreement to purchase the school and also do some due diligence, which I also referenced in my proposal. I believe one of the members of the committee brought up that at the time when we last met, and we've actually completed that due diligence work now and found that we're very excited about the opportunity to work on this project with you all. We didn't find any issues or problems when we did some site excavation to understand, what the environmental conditions were. And we also did some other borings to understand the geotechnical environment. And we then scanned the building, the school building, to understand what the conditions were within that building. We did a structural engineering report. We did an abatement report to understand what hazardous materials were in the school building. And then we kind of worked, with some folks in the community because we thought our plan was good, what we submitted, but we thought we could make it better. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But part of that making it better was potentially acquiring 12 School Street, which is an abutting parcel. So we have a purchase and sale agreement now on 12 School Street, which improved the ability to make the site larger, but also accommodate more parking and more open space. Another item that I wanted to mention is sorry, there's a little background noise. Jason Korb, who you see in the windows here, is my business partner in Bridgewater, and he's decided to join the venture here in Baldwinville. So we've teamed up once again to work with you all on this great project. So I wanted to introduce Jason to you all and have him speak a little bit about his background and experience. And then I've got Janice Mamayak from Icon, as well as Brian Lieber from Epsilon Associates. Icon is the architect. Janice is the principal in charge there. So she's here to kind of walk you through the new site plan. And then Brian is our historic consultant. So he'll give you some background on what we've learned about the school. Our intent is to, apply for state and federal historic tax credits. So Brian leads the charge on that, and he can kind of give you some background on what he's learned about the school, which is pretty interesting. And then again, Janice will kind of walk you through the plans, and then we can talk again about, the financial logistics around this and CPC application to you all, which is a requirement of the process. But before we do that, Jason, why don't you introduce yourself and let the folks here know a little bit about Capstone Communities and the great work that you do.
Sure. Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. I appreciate it. As Matt said, my name is Jason Korb. I'm the principal of Capstone Communities. I've known Matt for quite a long time. My background is I started in the nonprofit sector. I worked at Fenway Community Development Corporation. That's kind of how I got my feet wet in the business. And after Fenway, I went to work at Beacon Communities, which is a large developer of affordable, historic, mixed income housing. In 2010, I decided to hang my own shingle and went off on my own and found a building in downtown Brockton, actually, an old historic mill building. Turns out that it's believed the catcher's mitt was invented in this building. So it's a very interesting project called Station Lofts. And that's where I met Matt. Matt was working at another company at the time. I turned that building into 25 units of mixed income housing. We used federal and historic tax credits. And since then, I've done a number of affordable deals, mixed income deals, historic deals. I'm the former vice chair of Preservation Massachusetts. Preservation and historic preservation has been something that's permeated throughout my career and is something that's very important to me. I was a history major in college. I love hearing the stories and listening to the stories of old buildings and restoring old buildings and rehabilitating old buildings. So since that building in Brockton, I've also restored a 1860s Greek Revival building in Arlington, Mass, a Second Empire building in Cambridge. Actually moved the Second Empire building in Cambridge recently on Mass Ave in Porter Square, right next to Lesley University, and we're restoring that. That project's called Frost Terrace, and restoring 2 Gambrel-style houses behind there. So historic preservation, affordable housing are very important to me. I also build market rate housing, and that's where I generate more of my income. But I do this work, and I think I speak for all of our whole team, because I really believe in it, and I love this work. I love restoring old buildings. I love building high quality housing for folks that work really hard and can't afford to pay crazy rents anymore. And so that's why I do this work, and I'm really honored to be, hopefully a part of this project, and happy to answer any questions you have about myself or my company. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Jason. That's great. And if you guys would like, we can send around our websites again. If there's plenty of information about the projects we're currently working on, and then the ones that we hope to be working on as well, and have worked on in the past. So with that, I want to kind of switch gears and talk about what we're proposing in your community, which again, we're really excited about. We're doing mixed income housing here, approximately 50 units, of which it'll be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And let me just share my screen if I can. All right. Can everybody see that? Great. And here you have your community and the site as it currently lays out. It's the parcels that make up the Baldwinville school. So there's one here, which is a former railroad. So that's one piece, parcel 407. The parcel that the school sits on, which is right here, an adjacent small piece of land here, and then 12 School Street, which extends all the way down to the river. And we have a purchase and sale agreement for that lot. So I'm going to hand it off now to Janice to kind of walk you through some elements of the site plan, and Brian as well. So Janice, why don't you say a few words, and then we can hand it over to Brian.
Sure, thank you. I'm Janice Momonic, principal in charge at Icon Architecture. We too love existing buildings. I head up our Renew practice, so I've got a portfolio full of these historic schools that we've been transforming into affordable housing. So with the orientation on this slide, maybe we go to the next one and I can walk through what we're proposing. Oh, okay. That one, there we go. Slides got mixed up a little bit, sorry about that. So the same view blown out a little bit. School Street at the bottom, Cottage Street to the right. You could see the yellow outline consistent with the slide before that delineates that composite lot with the inclusion of the 12 School Street. We've laid it out such that we are maintaining that historic lawn to really let that historic school, the facade, present as it always has. And Brian will talk more about that and the historic school, but really maintain that open space as an amenity to not only the project, but the community as a whole. on either side of that, you can see we've got access to parking. We've tried to distribute that throughout the site, maintaining an accessible entry on the lower site to the left of the school, as well as a new entry up at the right where we've put the new construction. So from the street, we're really focused on the historic school, and we've developed our addition to the rear, and then using the greater part of the site with our new addition. There's about 15 plus or minus units in the historic school, and then the bulk of the 50 units will be in the new construction. As Matt mentioned, the lot towards the rear, we are highlighting that as a pathway from Cottage Street and around the new addition. And there's an open space there for play area. And then it continues on to what we're calling an overlook, providing a nice view of that river embankment where that bridge some time ago crossed the river. So we've talked about the open space at the front, the historic lawn, the pathway that'll be, again, an amenity for the community to connect to that broader recreational use, a play area to the back. And then as our historic and new construction kind of create this inner courtyard, our residents will have the use of some patio space where we can, gather community. It's a hard word to say, but working with all the different grades throughout the site, creating accessible routes and the like. So we've got 76 parking spaces proposed, 40 to the left, 36 to the right. So with the 50 units, that's about 1.5 spaces per unit. And with that, I think maybe we'll let Brian talk about the historic features a little bit, and then I'll get into more of the nuts and bolts of the project.
Sure. So I'm sure you all are familiar with the building, built in 1923. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Brian Lever. I'm a historic preservation specialist with Epsilon Associates. So as I mentioned, the building was built in 1923. It replaced a previous, was actually a very beautiful late 19th century high school, the former Templeton High School that was lost to a fire. And the building's initial use was actually as a high school for many years. It was the new Templeton High School. It was really the first modern 20th century school building that was built in town. And you can see here on the left, we have a historic photograph of the building. And on the right, we were actually able to locate the original plans of the building as well. Part of my role on this project is I help obtain state and federal funding in the form of historic tax credits. And those credits are allocated to projects that rehabilitate historic buildings. So the first issue that we have to go out and resolve with this building is to have it designated to be historic. In this case, it would be eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. And that is something that we will be pursuing, and we would appreciate the support of the Historical Commission in doing so. Once the building is determined eligible, that allows us to pursue funding in the form of the historic tax credits. And the second sort of threshold that has to be met is that the rehabilitation has to be historically sensitive. So one of the things we look for are historic plans and images and ways where we can try to restore some historic and lost features. In this case, for this project, one of the big ones would be the windows. All of the windows on the building have been replaced, but because we have photographs and plans, that allows us to design replacements that would go back and match the features that were previously lost. And also as part of the project, we go through and we look for important interior features as well, whether they be decorative trim work or columns, ceilings. It's really a matter of making sensitive choices and trying to preserve the building both on the interior and the exterior. And if we're successful in doing so, that allows us to access these funds, which end up being a very important part of the project's financing. Ultimately, at the very end, we would have the building listed on the National Register as a program requirement for the federal funding. Matt?
Thanks, Brian. That was great. I'm going to hand it back to Janice to walk you through the floor plans a little bit and then show you a rendering of what we're proposing.
Awesome. So just so we make the switch to this plan, in order to fit on the page, we've rotated the view now. So School Street is to the left, Cottage Street would be lower down on the bottom of the page, just so everyone's got their orientation right. So in the school, so this is the ground floor, the lower level of the school, which is most accessible by the parking that pretty much exists now. You can see on the upper part of the page, I'm trying to use my cursor and I realize that's not working. But accessing from the top of the page through the historic entry, we'd walk into kind of a community area delineated in the green. So promoting common use there. That is the current gym. And we're looking at putting units in there as well. And we continue through the school. So anywhere you see orange are residential units. Blue is kind of the circulation. And we work through other amenity spaces such as the management. But as we work to get this addition connected to the historic, working with Brian and his team, looking at where those connections can happen, we're tying into what currently are like restroom corridors or other spaces. And that'll be what we're calling as our connector, where we really make that step from the historic to the new construction. And that connector node becomes, a circulation. We'll put a elevator in there so that we can mediate the different floor levels of the two structures and become kind of a communal space as well as it's where the community comes together. And why don't we go to the third floor then? Oops.
Sorry. Surprise.
Surprise. Oh, this is second and third floor. It's more of the same, essentially connecting where those opportunities arise, and then maintaining the historic stairs as they are. What we will be working closely with Brian with in these historic structures, the corridor is like that sacred nave. Sorry to use a more religious term, but we know that we have to maintain a lot of that historic character, and we want to maintain a lot of that historic character. But that'll be continued in through then the addition. Then there we go. This is our first pass at what this new addition could begin to look like. And you can see the connector. Matt's got the cursor kind of in the middle there as that, hey, we're leaving the historic now and we're passing into a more contemporary interpretation of that building, dealing with kind of the simple massing, real clean lines, kind of this 2/1, the 2 stories that are delineated so clearly in the front elevation of the historic, kind of recalled in this elevation at the addition, and then making that ground floor somewhat standalone. Very simple materials, and
that's great.
Yeah, there you
Thank
go.
you, Janice.
Sure.
So we'll maybe stop there. And John, I don't know if you want to have a discussion about, what we presented thus far, or talk a little bit more about, revenues associated with the project and, the request to the CPC. We can get into that, but
Can I ask one question first?
Sure.
Because, and I'm not sure Dennis will probably know, is there any issue related to zoning and having a 3-story building?
So,
I don't think there would be. Of course, I could apply for some kind of an exemption for this project. I don't know. So that'd
Yeah.
be-
Dennis, I think we mentioned the last time we were here, and in the RFP response, we're going to seek what's called a comprehensive permit for this project. And that is under Chapter 40B of Mass General Law, which allows for exceptions in zoning practice for projects that provide an increased level of affordability. So we're able to, use a permitting methodology that's prescribed by the state, where we can take relief from base zoning that we normally wouldn't have access to, or we'd have to get many variances in order to do that. But through the 40B process, there's a little bit more flexibility there. So that's our plan, is to basically share this with the CPC, and the community get everybody's buy-in, looking for, CPC resources for the project, and then go through the 40B process in what we call a friendly 40B, where we work very closely with the town administrator's office and the planning board and ultimately the ZBA, zoning board. And they are the ones that, basically give the zoning relief that we're requesting through the 40B process. So that's how we get the parking counts. That's how we get the building heights and the density of units per acre, which, are outside of what would be your traditional, allowed ZBA uses. So
One other question I had was regarding the parking. Is there parking on your property that's allocated for visitor or delivery?
So we will go through a process of designating spaces for various uses. We generally, when we have more than one space per unit, we don't allocate them per unit per se, but I do want to share my screen again and just kind of point to the site plan one more time. Just bear with me. So we have 76 parking spaces on site. We'll do a little bit of a traffic analysis to understand, what we think is required in Templeton. That said, we also have access through our agreement with the town to these 16 additional spaces on School Street. So it's quite a bit of parking at the end of the day. And, I could see that being a great place for visitor spots, that doesn't conflict with the residential use or people's parking closer to the building entries. So that's how we think that makes sense to do 76 parking spaces on site per the 40B comprehensive permit, and then the additional 16 spaces in School Street that we can utilize if necessary. So just wanted to touch on that.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Now, does anybody else have any questions before we go on to some other related topics? Yes.
I have a couple quick ones. It looks, as I look at the last picture you showed, it looks like you're changing the appearance of the building in significant way. Is that going to in any way compromise the historical status of the building?
So we're not changing the school.
Matt, I think the question, I don't mean to interrupt. I think it'd be helpful if the view is actually a side view that we were showing you. We did not show you a front view. So I think that's, so maybe if you could put up the site plan and show the view that we were showing.
This is the view here. So
Is the side of the school, it's just clean now.
It's this side of the school that we're showing.
Yes.
So if you go to the rendering, so I'll just walk you through it. So it's this side of the school. The tall windows in what we're calling the connector is right here.
Right.
And then this is the
That's
front,
the new construction.
the new construction, the white part of the rendering. So let me just go back to that. I've got to make sure I'm clicking in the right places here. So this is the side of the school. Cottage Street would be behind us, if we're looking at this side of the school. Then the connector that I mentioned, and then the new construction here.
Right. Well,
So our goal, Dennis, is to keep this, as it was when it was built, and restore it, repoint it, add new windows, clean it up, make it a very functional and like new, so to speak, building.
And my second question was possibility of having some signage indicating that it was served as a high school. If that could be set up someplace in the front where it'd be visible to people going by.
Yep. So in our agreement with the town, there is a section that requests exactly what you've talked about, Dennis. So somewhere here on the front lawn, we would erect a plaque and maybe some seating. So people could come and know that, this was once a school, and maybe even some more information. We could work with the CPC to kind of create a plaque or whatever information you'd like to provide about the history of the building. I think that's a really important point and something we committed to
Okay.
in the agreement with the town.
Great. Mike, did you have any questions? Mike,
Yes, I did have a question. Actually, in the view that you're in right now, you have the original building, you have the new addition, and then to the left-hand side, it looks like there's more roof area there. What is that?
Here?
The 10, it says school there, right there.
So that's 12 School Street. I'm sorry, we did kind of gloss over that. Thanks, Mike, for asking the question. So that's an existing home. And our intent is to rehabilitate that home as well. And most likely we'll put another unit in there. So that's probably where we'll go and what we'll do with that building. But we would do it in a historically sensitive manner as well. So that would be part of the project.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to point out to everybody, that's that house that really has no frontage that was really kind of a sore thumb with this whole project. So by them taking that out of the equation and bringing it into the project, it makes a much better fit in the whole
Yeah,
neighborhood.
it really does. Am I seeing back on the top here, does that say dog pen or something? Just
Yeah.
above
Dog run,
Dog run.
potential, yeah,
on the top there?
Yeah.
right.
So that's a fenced area for the residents of the building to bring their dog.
Oh, okay.
So you're not,
Yeah,
utilizing the other open spaces
yeah. Okay.
Utilizing.
for the business.
Nice addition.
Yeah. We are really excited about this path, that we're creating for the community, this recreational type path. And, we hope if we can make sure that it's safe and secure, we'll be able to make that abutment and an overlook of the river, which would be really nice.
Yeah, so that area, obviously, the trestle that used to be there was only removed probably in the late 70s or so. So there is, fairly recent history of that being there. And you could almost envision, at some point having a pedestrian bridge across that ravine to access the other side. But, that's obviously not part of this project.
No.
And so anybody else have any questions? We're going to get some other things to discuss with this project.
I'm Matthew, Bob Sozik, Templeton DPW.
Hi, Bob.
That walkway, is that going to be open to the public?
Yes. This area here would be open to the public. Yep.
And is there any empty parking spots in this proposed plan for if the public was to come in and use that walkway?
So, that's why we don't designate spaces per se. We'd like to think that, if there's 50 units here, there'll be 50 parking spaces. It's probably a little bit more than that. So there will be some open parking. And as I mentioned, we also have the spots along School Street.
Correct.
So there's a route that you could take to get up to the path pretty easily.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think Bob wants to make sure you're going to snow blow that path, not him.
Yeah, we will maintain the site. That's part of the overall project's budget.
Yeah, so this is a very large scale project and they've submitted a very detailed document to the town in response to the, solicitation to purchase the land. And so they're coming to the CPC to seek funds from us to support this. And of course, part of our allocation is geared towards community housing or affordable housing. So, it's a natural fit for that. They are a large project. We've never had anything of this scope, certainly through the CPC. We've had some big construction projects in town, but the historic tax credits and all these things that need to come together to make this project work, it really does hinge upon the town demonstrating support. And that's working with the Historical Commission to get the designation. And I know, Matt and Mike and the Historical Commission will talk about that. But as far as the request to the CPC, that is to use some of our funds to support this project. Did anybody else have any questions about the layout, the architecture, the things like that? There's also going to be outreach to the citizenry, of course, to talk about the project so people will know its benefit and the issues related to it. But we've heard some of this before, and happy to. I know you and I spoke, Matt, that you were going to lay out. The other side of the coin is okay. What are the options? The Templeton has this old school building that's been vacant for several years and is not totally falling apart, but we know how things go over time. So the sooner you act, the sooner you rehabilitate, the sooner you get it back into use, the more likely the way it's going to continue and reduce the risk of losing it. Here is an opportunity to sell a piece of property to the developers. That general money would go to the town. The CPC money would support the project along with other funding that they have. And the result will be this two-part, historic and new construction with these 50 units, a significant portion designated affordable, some of them market rate, and it will be a privately held business that will be paying taxes to the town and, will support housing within the community. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, Matt.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So of the 50 units, approximately, 45 of them will be deemed affordable to individuals making at or below 60% of the area median income. So that helps to generate what's called low-income housing tax credits. And there's a number of additional resources that come from the state and the federal government in addition to the credit, the historic credit, the state historic credit, the federal historic credit. And then to bring that all together, as John kind of mentioned, it's very helpful to have a local contribution. And that's why we're requesting the CPA resources to help kind of fund the larger project budget. So this is a $20 million project. Leveraging, that 20 million is certainly important is the CPC request. But I also wanted to share with you, and I did a short one-page document, and I can distribute this, but I want to share it with you now so we can talk about it. And it disappeared from my view, of course. Where did it go?
Well, Matt, while you're looking for that, I would actually just amend one thing that you said, which is that in order to do these types of projects, a local contribution is required. The state will not use their federal and state resources to fund a project like this without a local contribution. So
that's why we made the request, or we're making the request. But I also want to share with you, some of the things that happen as a result of a project like this. So the Baldwinville Elementary School.
Blow that up a little bit.
Oh, sure. The Baldwinville Elementary School was never on the tax rolls. And this was all in my RFP response, but I just want to rehash it. So we're actually proposing a purchase price for the building because, we understand that it's a community asset and, it needs to return something to the town. So we're offering about $500,000 as the purchase price for the building. As a result of the $20 million investment, there will be a construction budget associated with that. And typically, the town charges a building permit fee. So, it's 1.2% of the construction costs. And I've approximated that to be about $160,000. So that's another fee that'll get paid to the town. And then as a result of the building coming back or coming to the tax rolls, there's a bunch of different revenue pots that are created. So you have your real estate taxes. So each unit, will be required to pay its real estate tax, just like the citizens of Templeton pay real estate taxes on their homes. Well, each unit will be assessed a real estate tax. There's excise taxes on the vehicles that are associated with those renting the units. So that's some additional taxes. And, you know, these may be people in the community that are looking to downsize or are on a fixed income. But, you know, they will rent these units, and so they will pay taxes in one form or another, and excise is another way to look at that. And then other revenue. So this is water and sewer fees. You know, everybody pays for their water and their sewer. So that's another, you know, pot that opens up as a result of the development of these 50 units. So that's about $100,000 a year in additional revenue to the town. And we've inflated these, and we're happy to share the calculations as well. Inflated them, you know, for inflation. So you know, taxes go up, other things go up. And so we've accounted for that in our projections. And then, you know, as John mentioned, and we're looking for a contribution of $1,174,000 from the CPA to support this redevelopment. So that's just a quick snapshot of, you know, money coming in, money coming out, flowing out. But as Jason mentioned, you know, these projects can't happen without a local contribution. And so it's really important that we get the community on board with the concept, but also the investment. And we wanted to present that this investment will pay back over time. But it's an investment in, you know, the three things, the mission of the CPC, the three things you guys look at and focus on every day, which is, you know, historic preservation, affordable housing, and open space. And we feel like this plan that we presented accomplishes all of those goals in one project, which is really spectacular and a great use of resources. So John, I hope that covers what you were looking for. And if there's any questions, happy to have a conversation about it.
Anybody have any questions?
I think you mentioned something about having a community meeting for informational purposes. That probably should be held before the town meeting if you're going to be putting in a request for the CPC funding for this.
That's a great point, Dennis. We have been talking about that. We wanted to come to this committee first with the most current plan. And then we're working with Adam and his office to schedule what unfortunately will be another Zoom, but it'll be open to the community. And you know, we love to do these things in person when we can, but you know, with COVID.
Right. I understand that.
But that said, you know, we will notice and properly notice and have a meeting in the coming weeks and share the plans that we share with you. We may even develop the concept a little bit further. But you know, now is the time. If you have some thoughts, please share them with us. We'd love to, you know, take a look at integrating any thoughts that you have, or if you like it as it is, tell us that too. You know, we want to hear what you're thinking. So that's where we stand with that meeting.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
John, I want to congratulate you guys. I think you got a beautiful project put together there. The first rendering, the site rendering I saw was good. I think the new one is hands over fist better than that one. I think your use of the land is right on the mark. Being a member of the Historical Commission, I love the idea that we're going to preserve the original building in the condition that it was at the time it was originally in use. I think you're hitting all the buttons here. I did have a question for Adam. Is there any other projects banging on the door to get into the Baldwinville Elementary School?
Ever since we completed the RFP process and the select board have signed off on the developer designation agreement for this project, there has been none. There was some competition through that process with Eden Re and MPZ Development, and the committee, both the screening committee for that went with MPZ Development as well as the select board. So as it's been right now, I think you see a great project here for the town. This is something that we could all be proud of, and I could say that the folks here have been great to work with, no question. Thank you.
From my viewpoint, on the historical commission, we've lost some historical treasures in the town, even within the last few years. I'm thinking the Baptist Church in Baldwinville, the Templeton Inn and Templeton Common. We can't afford to be losing another, historic building in town of its size and its history. I'm all in favor of the project. So I'll be glad to work with, I guess it's Jason on the historical aspect of it. I can either get you my email or you may already have it, but anything I can do to help get meetings set up with the historical commission, I'll be glad to help with that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Great.
Have you had to do or have you done yet a needs assessment as far as the demand for housing units in Templeton and the, in the price range?
Yeah, so thanks, Carrie. That's a great question. When I was looking at this opportunity, I did assess the market. And what I learned is that more than 70% of the housing stock in Templeton is for sale housing. And there's really not a whole lot of rental housing available in the community. And the rental housing that is available is aged, it's in 2-family homes or people are renting homes. There isn't really an option to kind of rent a 1 or 2, 3-bedroom apartment. You need to go to Gardner, or another community that's closer by. So, there really is a need for rental housing as we see it, and we also work with market analysts, that look at this stuff, and we spoke with our market analyst, and part of the application process for the balance of the funds through the Department of Housing and Community Development will require us to do an in-depth market study where we'll look at, all of the surrounding communities and, average comparables, but, and show that there is a true need for this project. Inherently, we feel there's a need. And, that's what pushed us to make the proposal. And so, that's kind of where we've come out on it. We're going to really get into the details as we move forward and raise the rest of the resources. We're going to be required to do that to prove, market rents versus the affordable rents and show just the whole breadth and depth of the market. But in the first pass, that we do when we look at new opportunities, we recognize there was a need for rental housing in the community.
So is there any kind of mechanism to, I don't know how you would do that, but to have a preference for a person currently living in Templeton or working in Templeton or relations in Templeton, something of that nature for the units as they become available?
Great question. And yes, there is actually. There's a local preference that's allowed by the Department of Housing and Community Development. You need to request it, but up to 70% of the units can be made available to residents of Templeton. But they do have to approve that. We have been successful in getting that preference in the past, and so. If that's something the community would like us to do, we're happy to talk to DHCD about doing a local preference.
I think we might want to explore it. I'm not going to say one way or another now, but it would be a shame to have a beautiful new project and have somebody that's lived in town and wants to stay in town and rent in a nicer and be pushed out because the housing demand is so great. Somebody from out of the area takes the units first. So I think it would be an easier sell, when we go before the town to get this money approved at town meeting.
Happy to have that conversation with DHCD, and we did include a local preference in our project in Bridgewater, and that's memorialized in the decision that comes out of the permitting process. So that really is part of the friendly 40B that we'll go through, but we're, you know, very well versed in the process, and will help the town kind of with the decision and where those things get plugged in. So certainly we'll look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else have any questions in hand?
Matthew, Bob Sozik again from the Templeton Highway Department. I know that the plans are hard to judge, but do you feel you have enough room for winter time as far as piling of snow, or you plan on removing it? It looked kind of tight in some areas.
That's a great question, Bob. So our civil engineer offered the site plan, and when they look at this stuff, you know, they certainly do account for locations to put snow. Snow is something that we love and we hate in New England, right? But the question is a good one. So I can share my screen and kind of point again to where we think there might be some opportunities. So here, there's an opportunity to kind of harvest snow as well as the buffer along this parking area. And then here again, you know, we may have to look at how this works because we do have that access, but maybe there's a way to kind of put it on the lawn for just the winter time, you know, just move it down and around and store it here. So that's initially what we're thinking, but we'd be very open to your input as to some other locations where we might take care of that. But all of that will be addressed through the comprehensive permit process. You know, we'll have an opportunity to review the plans with the town, and we'll come to see you and the other departments in the town to make sure that, you know, we're meeting all of the requirements of police, fire, you know, DPW, anybody that, you know, is on the list. We're going to make a special stop and get their input on the plans.
Okay. I would say at the end of the day, if it has to be hauled, it will be hauled. So we haul on a lot of projects.
Yeah, we have a fairly new construction building in town, and it's really not designed for snow piling up, and it's nothing but been a problem, and it's sad, but it's there's not enough room, so we have to do the same thing every now and then and upset a lot of neighbors and everything else, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, our highest priority once these things are built is our residents. So, you know, we create operating budgets that allow us to be able to manage the property to the highest standard. So, you know, if snow removal is required, then, you know, that's what we'll do. We'll truck it off site. So.
Great. So the process is, you know, incumbent upon us to move forward if the town is going to move forward, because anything related to CPA funds doesn't get to the selectmen to get onto the warrant unless it comes through us. Now, we will work with Matt to pull together the project, you know, application. You know, we haven't, it's really already been covered by what we've discussed. And the reason that I brought out our figures at the very outset was to demonstrate that, you know, even in our current funds, we have enough money to support that project at that scale. We would likely, if we were to choose going forward, we would, you know, zero out our existing community housing budget of $205,851, which has always been a challenge to spend, frankly, in town. And then the balance would come from that undesignated reserve, you know, for an additional $68,000. And we would still have money, you know, $300,000 left in that. And we anticipate the $415,000 or so this year. So this is a large project. This is something by far greater than anything we've done. But we do have the funding available, and this is one of the uses that are really is designated for. So that being said, you know, we are on a time frame where we have to put together warrant articles. We always have to work with our town council to get the language. specifically for what gets voted on to make sure it's compliant. But we first need to feel whether the committee wishes to move forward on this. We could do that and we could actually, move forward with a formal vote if people were, comfortable with that. Obviously, it's going to be up to the citizens of town to say yay or nay, and it's going to have to be the public outreach. And therefore, I would like to ask if there's any interest in, are you comfortable? Are you in, Mike has indicated support for this. Would you like to see this project go forward? And if so, should we vote to move it forward to the town meeting warrant? Joanne?
I think this is a wonderful project. I do have reservations about using that amount of CPA money on one project.
Okay.
We have many other projects in town, departments, coming to us, different villages. So to me, it just seems like for one project, it may take away from other needs in Templeton.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Dennis?
I agree with Joanne. This is a large amount of money to spend at one time. However, looking back, we have spent relatively little as far as affordable housing is concerned in town. And this is a project which I think probably is worthy of the expenditure of this kind of money. We will have to be more conservative after this on what we spend because we won't have the funding, but I think we should. I have a positive feeling for this project. I would support it.
I have to say, I feel a lot better this time than I did the initial one, and maybe that was just sticker shock the first time. It was scary, that's such a big chunk of money, so it did seem a little scary. I thought your presentation today was good, maybe because it's the second time sort of we've talked about it. It's always easier the second time. I think my real concern is the town. I think that really have to be mindful about having a very good presentation, public relations, keep getting it out. I mean, if I'm someone who's worked in housing, with the government for 40 years, if my first one scared me, imagine if we get to town meeting and everybody's hearing about it for the first time. I don't feel real good about that. So, that's something you're really going to have to key on, bringing the positive, bringing what it does, bringing that it's not, we're not going to lose another building. We're going to bring revenue, all the points that you hit us with, you really are going to have to hit the townspeople with so that they, that they can see the project. But like I said, I feel a lot better about it this time. I'm with you, Joanne. It's a scary thing. But, I think that we can't sit on the money forever, and we really haven't paid a lot of attention to affordable housing in town and the needs of some of our own citizens. So I guess I'm feeling favorable about the project.
Thank you. George, did you want to say something from conservation?
Well, from what I can see, the only area would be the back part of where they're going to do the walkway. Conservation, I don't think is really going to have much of a problem with it. It looks pretty good. It's a straightforward project. So, hopefully we can get it set up and do it. I like the idea of it. It would help out. Whereas years ago, we got messed up with another project that all of a sudden people disappeared on it. That's the only thing I'd be worried about.
Well, that's a good question. Is there bonding requirements?
To us? No.
No, I mean, I'm asking to Matt.
Yeah. So once we get to a full financial closing with the lenders, investors, we put a payment and performance bond on the project. So all of the resources are committed, when we close. As it relates to going away, Jason and I have been doing this for a while. We've already invested a significant amount of our resources into this project. And we are going to continue to make those investments. They come in the form of our due diligence work, our engineers and our architects and our historic consultant and our wetlands consultant. I forgot to mention that, George, we did do a wetlands boundary survey, so we know how far we are from the waterfront. None of the construction or very little of it would be in the 200-foot buffer. So we will go before Conservation Commission and just present this to get an NOI filed. But that said, we have significant resources already committed. This is a great project. We're really excited about it. We know we can get the state excited about this as well, because they do have to put public resources into this. And quite frankly, we're in a housing crisis in the Commonwealth. There's not enough of any type of housing, for the people that live and work here. And so, it's really important that we continue to add to the housing stock. And, this will help the Templeton in its quest to, increase its percentage on the subsidized housing inventory. Just to share with you where Templeton sits currently on the subsidized housing inventory. I just pulled up the 2020 inventory, and Templeton is currently at, and I'm sorry, I should know this off the top of my head, at 7.7%. And so the state would like to see you at 10%. And so a project like this, 50 units, all 50 units will go on the subsidized housing inventory. And so that'll make a pretty big impact. There's 3,000 units total in Templeton. And so, this will go a long way to kind of put a dent into the overall unit count. So the ones that are currently on the SHI amount to 233. So, you're going to add roughly a quarter more to your unit count that are included on the SHI.
That would push them over 10% probably.
Yeah, very, very possible.
That would give you protection under 40B.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen a huge growth in Templeton with a lot of these new houses getting, jammed into every lot that they can. Obviously, we're out in the hinterlands, and so, $400,000 house is a mansion compared to what you would get east of here. And so we are seeing a strong, real heavy burden on growth, and frankly, we see at least a 10 or 15% increase in our projected revenue from CPA, and that's going to continue to grow. So we're going to continue to see $300,000 or thereabouts a year to add to these projects. So yes, it is a huge amount of money, and it's a big chunk of our existing balance. But if we don't do it now, when will we do it? So I'm of the mind that we support this project because we really need to. We will reuse that building. I have heard some favorable things around town, related to this, but we know it's going to be a big challenge to get it through town meeting. We have to do a targeted outreach and work to make sure the community is comfortable with this, and that for them to understand that there is a return on investment back to the town in the form of not only the sale, but the anticipated revenues. Then there will always be the question of what impact does that have on our school system, et cetera, et cetera. All those questions need to be brought out, but nothing will happen unless we move it forward and let the citizens have that choice and that say. So I support putting this project forward. If we're not comfortable voting tonight, we're going to have a meeting within the next couple of weeks so that we can finalize our warrant articles. So once again, I'll ask if there is any interest in voting directly tonight on this, or do we want to schedule another meeting? Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to hold a vote tonight, please.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded to vote to approve the MPZ project as it's being defined for the sum of $1.174 million to come from the Community Preservation Housing Reserve and Unbudgeted Reserve as allocated and present it to the select board as part of our integrated annual town meeting warrant article. Is there any further discussion on that? Joanne?
I would like to say that, this might go through a lot smoother if the amount was reduced. I still have concerns for, using all of those funds for one project.
That's certainly understandable. Adam, did you want to say something? Is that why I see your hand?
Yes, I just wanted to also add, by the developer designation agreement, the minimum amount is that 1.174 million. So that number can't be reduced by the agreement that the town is in.
Okay, and so, as has been noted, historically, the only projects that we've really done with the affordable housing reserves are purchasing in support of affordable housing up at Phoenix Court, the emergency generator back after the ice storm, and spending $5,000 to do our affordable housing plan and support that in the past with MRPC. So we really haven't, we have passed in this most recent year a small amount of money to develop an approach towards trying to retain the Day Mill affordable housing units. But we really have struggled to fulfill our obligation to do the affordable housing. And obviously we do this one, we're not gonna be able to do any large scale thing, but what else would there be going forward? I mean, it does bring back money because of the sale of the land, the continued revenue. As Adam indicated, I guess that it's this number or no number, unless we wanted to increase it, which I know we don't. So any other discussion on the motion?
John, I just wanted to let you know that with the 50 additional units on the SHI, you go to 9.3% from the 7.7.
Which is great. And then that's going to go down further because they're building like crazy. Adam?
We can also just have, just for the warrant purposes, where the funds are coming out of, whether you're going to use out of your undesignated community housing, just for the warrant purposes. I think that would be excellent.
Yeah, so basically it would be, as I indicated, zeroing out the community housing figure, because remember, at our town meeting, the allocation, the appropriation that we do for the coming year's receipts, by voting that at town meeting, makes those funds available during the year. So we will have an additional $400,000 to do projects during the current year ongoing. So by the fall town meeting, we could approve additional funds, and we would have, once again, so if we have $400,000 more, there's another $40,000 that's going to go into the affordable housing. So we might even want to talk about that on the details of where the article is coming from. But Steve, you have your hand up. We running out of time? Steve's our TCTV guy. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to report on a few comments on the YouTube
screen, thank you.
For you, since you asked for comment. I'll condense some of them, both Mike Curry, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
We're trying to get rid of the vote.
Mike, George, could you mute, please?
And Bob May are in support of the project. Mike Curry advises to go all in. Bob May says it's 5% of the project cost. Vote yes, please. And Mike Curry says he understands your comment, John, that we will get there in small increments. And thank you for your support of Day Mill.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. That YouTube channel is something that's totally, I'm blind to, so I appreciate that. Those are comments from the external audience. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a poll of, as I see you on the screen, for the motion to go forward with this project to the select board for the town meeting. Dennis?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Joanne?
No.
Carrie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes too. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5 yes and one no. So thank you very much. The motion passes. We will be submitting this article to the select board to place on the annual town meeting. So thank you to MPZ.
Thank
Do you
you.
guys want anything else to say in parting, or we'll see you again soon?
No, we appreciate the support and we look forward to working with you to bring this project to fruition. We're really, really excited. So this is a huge milestone for us. And we thank you for your time and we look forward to being in touch going forward.
Okay, great. Well,
Thank you very
thank you
much.
all. We'll be in touch. I'm
Good night,
sure.
gentlemen.
All right. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
Have a good night.
Good night. So returning back to our business, that was the bulk. That obviously took, a long time, but it's obviously an important topic. The other article that we wanted to speak to was the Gilman Waite project, which we did. We already have approved the $230,000 for that. Scott, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in on anything that we've discussed about that.
Nothing new updates, pretty much where we were at when when you guys voted to approve that funding to put on the warrant.
Okay, so that article will read $230,000, $53,760 will come from the open space and recreation account, and the balance of whatever it is, $176,340 from the undesignated reserve.
John, what was the total number of that figure again?
It's 230,000.
230,000.
Yeah, and that is to be expended upon completion of the Gilman Waite project, including the irrigation, the fencing, the restrooms, but it does not address items specific to the concession.
Right.
Okay, is there any other discussion we want to have on that? The other thing that we will do is, so this will be merged into I believe Adam wants to put it into one article again. And so the other one will be the general appropriation, which will be seeking the ability to appropriate $415,000 in incoming revenue to be comprised of the billing from the town, the CPA receipts, and the state match of October or November of 2021. And then we will allocate that into each of the categories as we annually do: 5% to admin, 10% to affordable housing, 10% to open space, and 10% to historic preservation, 65% to undesignated reserve. I would prefer to do it this way and allocate that money to go forward. And then all the money that we're talking about spending in those other two articles is money we already have. It makes it so much easier on the whole accounting nature going forward. So then the only question remaining will be, is if we were going to put something forward with the Baldwinville Fire Station. Now, and I don't know if we have a time limit on the Zoom or not. That we had discussion. There was talk about doing an engineering study on the building where we had spent $1,000 of the town money to evaluate the MEMA building on 4 Elm Street. I don't know what we want to do on that. We know we want to move forward on it. Maybe we should try to defer that to a fall town meeting article, or because I don't really have anything together. What do you guys think? Mike, we've spoken some about.
Yeah. I talked to Rich Curtis. There seems to be a lot of confusion about the paperwork that was necessary to drive the project forward. Rich felt that he had filled out the paperwork that was requested and had given it to Carter Tetrazzini. And he thought he hadn't heard anything back on that. Adam, I believe Rich told me he was going to be speaking with you yesterday or today. And he was going to try to get a handle on where that paperwork presently sits.
I'll look forward to hearing from him. I know Bob Sozik and I had some materials for the emergency management building, but I believe it was for the $450 roughly $1,000. I'll circle back with Rich Curtis.
Okay, and so if it's something that needs to happen for this annual town meeting, we'll have to call another meeting to discuss it before, and it could be, let's see, our next meeting is March, on my calendar right here, but I think the deadline is March 8th. Did I see, Adam? Let's see, calendar.
That's correct. Well, that's for citizens petitions.
Okay, because our next meeting will be March 11th. I should remember that because it's always the same in March as it was in February.
I think it would be better, and I could speak for Rich, that we wouldn't want to rush ahead without our ducks in a row. You know, if we're going to do this project, we want to do it the proper way. So I think we ought to put everybody's heads together, figure out where we are and where we go from where we are. And there's no immediate, the building's not falling apart. It's something that we do want to work on in the near future, but I'm sure that waiting till the next town meeting or the 2022 town meeting would not be an issue. So.
Okay, very good. I agree 100%. So just for the sake of closure, I would like to request a vote on our annual appropriation article, which will indicate, you know, the request to appropriate $415,000 in CPA revenues plus match, allocated 5% admin, 10%, 10%, 10%, and 65%, so that we can formally have a vote on that. And then that will enable us to put forward to the select board that integrated article that we've discussed. Is somebody willing to make that motion? Move to allocate the anticipated FY22 revenue of $415,000 to be allocated 5% admin, 10% open space, 10% community housing, 10% historic preservation, 65% undesignated reserve.
I can make the motion. I just can't repeat what you just
You
said.
don't have to. Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye and or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Abstentions? 0. It's unanimous and it passes. Thank you very much.
So can I ask you something, John? I want to make sure I understand that everything is going to be on one warrant. Does that mean the money for this housing project is going to be on the same warrant, sort of a winner take all kind of thing? Or what did you mean by that?
That's how they like to do it now, and that's how we're advised to do it by the attorneys. And then we always ask them if we can pull it apart if the people want a separate vote. I mean, I was always one who advocated for each thing being voted individually, so you're not tying it all together, you know. Adam, can you share? I mean, this.
What I can do is I could talk with town council about separating the two. If that's the committee.
Yeah, I mean, I just worry about if they can't make their case to the town to spend the money, then what happens to our allocations?
I'll check on that, and if the committee wants me to, I can try to get those appropriations separate for the Community Preservation Act. So you would have one for Gilman Waite and one for the Baldwinville School project. Is that what I'm hearing?
And then the third one would be that general appropriation.
The general appropriation, yep. And I'm working on that right now. I'm going to send you a draft.
Okay, and I got the numbers from Luann, so yeah, so those that I posted, I can email you that thing. Very good. So I think we should separate them, frankly, just because of that. Like Carrie said, I mean, you'd hate to see everything go down in flames if something wasn't supported. Not that, you know, we'll make a good case. Okay, we've had a long meeting. We still have things that we can discuss if people are so interested in any new business or old business or anything else we want to discuss. There's my daughter.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to look at that thing Laurie mentioned on Lord Road yet?
I have looked at that. I have not reached out
Okay.
to the person. And that's something that we should have an open space meeting. I copied Carrie and
Right.
Dennis on that. It's a
Yeah.
potential
Okay.
open space.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Steve, did you want to say something?
Just reporting again on the YouTube chat. Mr. Chairman, Mike Curry, Chairman of the Select Board, says maybe a consent agenda. I guess for items to discuss.
Excuse me, can somebody help me with that? What do you mean a consent agenda?
I'm not sure what he means.
Is he referring to the town meeting articles?
We may have to wait for another comment. There's a 20-second lag.
Oh, okay,
So I'll report back when Mike writes more.
because we're about to adjourn, I think. Any other business to come forward? So our next meeting will be scheduled for March 11th at 6:30, unless we need to have another, emergency one before then. Are you back with more comments, Steve?
Yes, Mike Curry says, I believe what he means by a consent agenda is all of them grouped together.
Okay, so that's a discussion for the select board to have in consultation with the town administrator and the lawyer. He's advocating for what we were saying we would rather not see. But ultimately, the select board set the warrant, we send them the articles. So, we've made our vote. Well, I will put this together in summary and send it forward to Adam. And
Sent you a couple of them just via email.
yeah, I got the thing, and then
Okay.
Yeah, we just want the ability, and no matter how it's stated, as long as if the body politic wants to separate out a vote, they could ask the moderator to pull something apart. I mean, we've discussed that in the past. So frankly, that's a discussion for another time, how it actually formally gets put together. So I don't know what else to say about that. So maybe we'll have to go to the select board for that discussion. Right? Anything else? Adam, do you want to weigh in any more on that, or are there any more comments?
I don't see any.
Okay, would you guys like to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Good
Thank you.
Thank you.